So seconds out, delighted to be joined by top welterweight contender Jamal James. Jamal, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Obviously want to talk about all things boxing, but before we do, it would be remiss of me not to talk about your city at the moment and what's going on. Just give us an idea of, your own experience, what's going on outside in Minneapolis right now.
Yeah, I mean, as most people know, there's a huge movement going on. There's been a lot of outrage and cry for justice over some of the injustices that have been, that we've seen not only in our city but across America. And the thing that kicked it off was, the unjustifiable murder of George Floyd. And it's people were really outraged about it. A lot of riots and vandalism and stuff for properties and stuff like that had went on just the day after and prior to his murder. But now there's been a lot of peaceful protests and moving forward, and just really trying to combat a system of oppression and just really seek justice for those who need it.
Have you seen a lot of people come to you for kind of guidance or an example as someone who's very prominent in the community?
People have definitely come to me and asked me about my input. I try to connect and network with a lot of different people. I have a brother who's on the police force, and I talk to him, but I also have a lot of people in the community and activists who obviously had negative interactions with police, so they don't really have the best of relationships with them. And what I do with my organization, which is the Circle of Discipline, is right now we're currently been doing like a food drive and stuff like that because a lot of the grocery stores and things around in our community got burnt up. So right now it's kind of a food desert. There's no banks open, no restaurants open, obviously because of the pandemic and stuff as well. And now there's no grocery stores open. So a lot of the elderly, and a lot of the families that we serve at our organization really need help just getting the basic needs. So we've been combating it like that, as well as just using my platform to kind of spread awareness on what this, really is and what's been really going on. A lot of people, may only see the fire and a lot of the looting and vandalism on TV, unknowing that there's a lot of peaceful protesters out there and not knowing that a lot of the stuff that, people that actually started the looting and the burning was coming from out of town and was kind of planted in peaceful protests. And then once they did something, then, when you're with a large group of people, sometimes you just follow suit instead of really questioning or looking at who's really starting that type of action.
How can people out there who are watching this contribute to the food drive and get involved?
You can go to the circleofdiscipline.org. If you are in Minnesota or Minneapolis, stop on through our organization, 1201 East Lake Street. Otherwise, check us out online. And there's a whole bunch of people in the community is really coming together, and helping out. So it's not just us doing the food drive. There's a lot of other great organizations and just regular community members that are coming together and that came together and are still coming together to help clean up the community after, a lot of the vandalism happened and just really try to build it back up. But you can definitely get the information from our website, which is circleofdiscipline.org. And you can check us out on our social media sites as well. Circle of Discipline, Instagram, Facebook.
That's great. And you mentioned your brother's a serving police officer. It must be very difficult for him at the moment, feeling maybe caught between two worlds in a sense.
Yeah, most definitely. The thing about him is he keeps it extremely real. I think people forget that police officers are humans. They just like anybody else. And some of them, unfortunately, get into the police force for the wrong reasons. And they end up making huge mistakes that was made. Well, I don't even know if I want to say that was a mistake because I have my own opinions on it, but they end up doing things that hurts the name of police officers across, the nation. he's a black police officer. He tries to be very connected with the communities he serves, you know, so there's definitely a lot of good officers out there, as you may have seen in some of people's postings on social media. A lot of them have been to, you know, the place where George Floyd was murdered and took a kneel in solidarity to show, you know, and pay their respects, and have talked to a lot of the peaceful protesters, you know, apologizing for, you know, their I don't know the right term to say, not their partner, but, you know, another guy on the police force for that man's actions and stuff like that. So they, you know, it is hard, you know. Being a police officer is definitely a hard job, but it's also one of those jobs that you really, you know, you can't really make no mistakes like that. You know, unfortunately, you can't make no mistakes like that having that job, because it has a tremendous effect on the community and on the people as a whole. And especially, you know, people that are coming from low income communities who feel oppressed and, you know, and things like that.
It must be particularly devastating for you because your last 4 fights have taken place in your hometown. You've kind of given the city a name for something really positive over the last year or two. And then this has happened and all the media focus has become on Minnesota, and for all the wrong reasons. So for you personally, it must have hit pretty hard.
I mean, a little bit, you know. It is definitely could have been put under better circumstances as far as like the media attention. But I'm glad to see that it looks like there have been huge strides to make serious change. You know what I mean? I mean, boxing will be here after the smoke settles. You know what I mean? And I'll still be here and I'll still be ready. I just got done training now. But I don't mind not having the limelight on me as long as, you know, we're able to get some real justice and get some real change for these troubling events that have been taking place, not only just in my city and my state, but across the nation. You know, there's been a large number of people that I feel had just been unjustifiably killed by, you know, police officers, by people who just have a real wrong mental theory on race relations. You know, just racist people, just, you know, and just so as long as we're getting that attention in order to change it in a good way, then I'm not mad at all. You know what I mean? And like I said, boxing has been around since the ages, so it'll still be around and I'll still be able to get right back on track. My mind right now is just to be, you know, help out the community in any way I can, as well as, you know, stay training and stay, you know, sharp with my craft.
You train out of Circle of Discipline, as you mentioned earlier, and it seems to be far more than just a boxing gym. It seems to be a real central hub in the community. Just tell us about how your relationship with Circle of Discipline and with Sankaria Frazier began.
Yeah, I mean, my mother brought me down to the Circle of Discipline when I was a young kid, around 5 years old, and they just adopted me in there. You know what I mean? I fell in love with the energy of the place, hearing the sound of the speed bags, seeing, you know, big dudes, you know, working out, training hard, but also being very uplifting to each other. And, you know, they just kind of adopted me into their ways, and I just stuck around and, you know, was able to really gain a real talent for the sport. And it's been a long, hard road, but now we're here in a place where we're knocking on the door for a title. And all of that is because of that village, because of Circle of Discipline and also friends and family who pushed me along the way.
And your trainer, Sankaria Frazier, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. There's every chance I'm not. But what's the relationship between the two of you guys like? Because it seems to go beyond the traditional kind of trainer-fighter relationship.
Oh, yeah. No, that's family. You know, that's my father right there. You know, that's my father. Adonis Frazier is my older brother. They taught me many tools that I use today, you know, when I'm moving around and in my life. And they're still teaching me, you know. I check in with them every day. We train together, you know, we organize together. We do all sorts of things together, you know. So when I say that's family, and you know, I don't even like calling him a stepdad. You know what I mean? Because people always, sometimes I'll get in interviews or people who are writing articles and stuff, and they'll say stepfather. I don't even like that terminology because, he's always acted as a father. My brother's always acted as a brother. That's not to take anything away from, my biological father, nothing like that, but I just call it for what it is. And we're tight,
And where does your nickname Shango, where does that come from?
It originally, I took it from my grandfather. My grandfather, which is my mother's father, is from Trinidad and Tobago. And he had a calypso band, which is similar to reggae,
sure.
Called Shangoya, and it was huge in the upper Midwest. They were pretty big in the upper Midwest. And when I did more research, I learned that Shangoya stems from Shango, and Shango comes from African mythology, and it's basically like the African Thor, the god of thunder, lightning, fire, dance, and all of that, but slightly different, when you look at the stories of it. But he had passed away some years back, so just to kind of keep that connection, with my heritage and history, as well as, adopt a name that I think fit me perfectly, because that's what I bring when I enter the ring is the fire, the lightning, and the thunder. I adopted the name Shango. And, it's more different and authentic and original, than the Hitman or Pretty Boy. Not to say nothing wrong with those names, but, a lot of people kind of got those names. I wanted to be a little bit more authentic in mine.
Excellent. And you've only had one defeat as a pro so far, against your Dennis Ugas. No disgrace there, incredibly talented fighter, former world amateur champion, of course. What have you learned from that defeat, and how have you improved since then?
Just to be 100% ready when you take a fight. I think I had been on a winning streak, and we kind of got that call short notice. And I have the type of mentality that if I'm a fighter and they call me for the fight, if I feel ready, then I'm a fight. You know what I mean? I don't try to duck and dodge nobody. The only time I might not accept a match is if I didn't think the business made sense. You know what I mean? If the risk didn't equal the reward type of deal. But they called me up, kind of last minute. I had just got back in the gym and was feeling good and took the fight, but I wasn't fully mentally prepared, and truthfully just kind of underestimated, his skill set as well. And he went in there and we still fought a really tough, hard fight, still went the distance, but he did his thing. And I congratulate him even to this day, you know what I mean? Since that fight, he's been doing his thing, but every time we see each other, he shows a lot of love. It's not, like a lot of animosity or nothing like that there between us. He's a very hard worker, just like I am. I just learned that, better not underestimate nobody in this game. You got to be prepared, and make sure you get a full camp in, at this level.
You've come back with a great run of wins, and you're on the verge of a WBA interim welterweight title fight with Thomas Delorme just before the restrictions began to come in place related to COVID-19. From your awareness, is that fight still going to take place for that title once all this is over?
Most definitely. Most definitely. I've talked to our management team, Al Heyman and his team and stuff. And we have, we're just as motivated to keep that same fight going. They're just figuring out, how to work through these loopholes of the pandemic and stuff, if that's even possible. Because the main thing is that you want to make sure people are safe. You don't want to keep spreading, this virus around, because it ain't no joke. But once they get it figured out, we definitely going to get that going. I think it's going to be a great fight.
And I've seen on your social media, and obviously you've just mentioned as well that you've just come back from training, so you've still been working hard while all this has been going on. How have you managed to kind of keep ticking over despite the restrictions and some gyms being closed and all that kind of thing?
Well, I just train right here in the house. Minnesota is a beautiful city. It's land of 10,000 lakes, and they shut down. There's roads that run parallel to the path of the lake, so they'll block those roads off so people can use the road to run and walk and bike. That way people can still maintain 6 feet distances. So I can definitely get my cardio in, and then I can, do the rest of my training right here at home. Obviously, when you're in the gym, you got the ring and a lot more things you can use. But for now, I can still do everything I need to do right here at home.
And given that your next fight will be for the WBA interim belt, is that the route that you want to go down towards that main WBA title, the super title? Is that the path that you want to take?
Most definite, man. You know, I've been knocking on the door for years. I think, you know, getting that interim title would definitely make it so that when I call some of these people out, they can't just brush me under the rug like, oh, this guy, you know, he doesn't even have a title. It doesn't make sense. You know, with that interim title, now I have more of a bargaining chip with it to come at some of those super titles, you know what I mean? And fight some of those bigger name competitors, you know. But first got to get that title. I don't want to overlook Norman or nothing like that.
Of course. And apart from yourself, who do you consider the current best 147-pounder in the world?
Apart from myself?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's hard to, you know, remove yourself from the best, man. No, they got, you know, there's a lot of the welterweight division is just stacked with great fighters. And I think that's why there's so much opportunity there. You know what I mean? You got Earl Spence, you got Danny Garcia, you got your Dennis Hu guys, you got Sean Porter. All of those guys, to me, are ranked, you know, as top fighters in that division. You know what I mean? So being able to get a big fight with either one of those guys, it would be awesome. You know what I mean? Would just let me know that, you know, I'm in that. My name needs to be mentioned in that tier.
Two guys that you didn't mention there, I'm sure not intentionally, Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, those guys too, man. Great fighters. Again, the welterweight division is just so stacked. You know, you got so much guys. So yeah, Terence Crawford, Manny Pacquiao. I'm sure there's some other guys too. But yeah, any one of those guys, you know.
And for people out there that have never seen you box before or have only seen you in spurts, how would you describe your style? I've often seen you compared to Thomas Hearns as an example that seems to come up quite a lot. Although I've seen a few of your fights, and I wouldn't say that's an exact analogy, really. How do you describe your own style?
My style, you know, I try to be able to be very adaptable in there. I obviously have the height and range like a Tommy Hearns, which you got to use to your advantage. You know what I mean? But you also have to be able, as a tall fighter, to fight inside, because when you're fighting great fighters, they'll break that distance here and there. And if they break the distance on you and you don't know how to deal with that inside game and those type of pressure fighters, you know, they can overwhelm you. So, you know, I try to mix it up with a little Tommy, with a little, oh man, why is his name slipping my mind? The Paul
Williams?
Last name. Paul Williams, yeah. Paul Williams, you know, because he was a tall fighter, but he'll bang with you. You know what I mean?
I was going to mention Paul Williams because you do remind me of him a bit.
Yeah, Paul Williams will bang with you and stuff like that. And then, you know, I watch a lot of older fighters too. You know, I watch a lot of Ray Leonards. I watch a lot of Haglers. I watch a lot of Roberto Duran's, Chavez, all those guys, all the way back to, you know, Sugar Ray Robinson and Joe Louis. I'm a student of the game.
And before we let you go, obviously you're very busy at the moment, both inside and outside the training. Just tell people out there how they can follow you on the various forms of social media. I know you use Instagram a lot more than Twitter, for example.
Yeah. You know, to be honest, I'm bad at the Twitter game, man. I'm still learning my stuff, man. I'm getting a lot better with my social media stuff anyway, but I still got to learn that Twitter stuff. But I'm definitely on Instagram. You can follow me, Shango Nation on IG, Shango Nation on Facebook, Shango Nation on TikTok. I'll do some silly videos or let people know what I'm doing. And then I have, you know, you can go to shangonation.com as well. I know we're still refreshing that website because we haven't touched it in a while. So we're refreshing it now. But I'll let people know what's going on and if we have anything in the works through any one of those sites.
Well, I think you're the first boxer in any of my interviews to quote TikTok. So you've broken some new ground there.
Yeah, man. I got a lot of nephews, man. They kind of put me on game with the TikTok stuff. I get caught just watching people's videos on there. It's pretty funny. You know, it helps to keep, you know, light of certain situations.
Good stuff. Well, it's been a pleasure to speak to you, and I hope we can do it again at some point soon, ideally when you've got a fight back in the books.
Most definitely, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, you have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Stay safe.
Yes, sir. You as well. Thank you, man.
Take care.